Welcome to Behind the Slate screening series and today's Q&A with the creative team from Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale. If you're watching on a larger screen, please go to the settings on your Vimeo player and choose either 1080p or 720p so that you have the best possible viewing experience. And now, please welcome the creative team from Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale and moderator Anthony D'Alessandro.
Welcome to our very special Q&A with the extraordinary team from Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale. I'm Anthony D'Alessandro from Deadline Hollywood. The Season 4 premiere of the 15 Emmy-winning series broke records for Hulu, ranking as the streamer's most-watched original for either a film or TV series debut in its first week. Let's introduce today's guests. We have BAFTA-winning cinematographer Stuart Biddlecombe.
Hi, Anthony. Great to be here.
The show's three-time Emmy-winning production designer, Elisabeth Williams.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here.
Debra Hanson, costume designer who joins this season. Recently, she won an Emmy in contemporary costumes for Schitt's Creek.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
And two-time Emmy-winning star, executive producer, and director of The Handmaid's Tale, Elisabeth Moss. Elisabeth directed 3 episodes this season. Episode 3, The Crossing, Episode 8, Testimony, and Episode 9, Progress.
Anthony, it's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome, everyone. We have a trailer before we begin.
Miss Osborne, if you were returned to Gilead, would you be subject to danger of torture, a risk to your life, or a risk of cruel and unusual treatment or punishment?
I'm looking for June Osborne.
You're better off without her. Everyone that helps her ends up on the wall.
She has eluded your soldiers for 19 days.
Find her and bring her to me.
Do you have some secret, brilliant plan?
I made a promise to hurt them the way we hurt.
This morning, a plane left Gilead and landed at Pearson. There were 86 children on board. This'll start a war.
We came here to fight.
No, you came here to fight.
You can't save her. You understand that, right? Some women don't want to be saved.
We're the ones we've been waiting for.
She's public enemy #1 in Gilead. She's not gonna last another week here.
Perhaps she's fulfilled her purpose and it's time to move on.
I can't. I'm gonna find her.
Run!
I'm gonna kill her.
How can I face him? Everything that has happened to her is because of me.
She chose to stay in Gilead. I can't ask God for something that she didn't want.
Everything has changed. The world is tilted on its axis.
Freedom agrees with you.
We are not free. You have destroyed my life, my family, my friends, my country, and my child. I ask for justice.
Plug in the Sonos bar and watch Season 4 of The Handmaid's Tale on the biggest screen possible. Under this team's oversee, Season 4 plays like a movie. Lizzie, you're directing the season, not just 3 episodes. Tell me everything, how this came to be. I know that you had a year to prep because of the pandemic, because production got... Tell me about everything.
I did have a choice of episodes 2 or 3 in the very beginning in 2019. And I chose 3 because of the story. It was a story I wanted to tell. with June and Lydia and Luke, and I loved the script itself. And then I had the 6 months shutdown. It was interesting though, and Stuart can confirm this. We didn't change that much in the 6 months that we had down during the pandemic. We pretty much ended up doing what we had prepped originally when we came back. And then I did episode 3 and then it went well and everyone seemed to think it was good. So we needed a director for episodes 8 and 9. And I thought, well, this might be a bit brazen, but I'm going to put my hat in the ring and see if, why not? What's the worst they could say is no. I'll still have a job. And luckily they embraced it, and I had the support of everyone here on this call and more in that endeavor, because they all had to sort of speak up as to whether or not it was a good idea. And I got to do 2 more, which I was so happy about because I was so sad when episode 3 ended.
A few years ago, I was talking with Jared Harris when he was on Mad Men. And I said, oh, is it like a method actor's place, where everyone goes in their corner and comes out and gets into character? I said, the acting is so great. He says, what are you talking about? He says, it's fast, fast, fast. You're lucky if you have a rehearsal. You got to hit your marks and go and know what you're doing. How is it on Handmaid's Tale? Is there time for the actors to digest, to kind of simmer down and find themselves, or is it a ferocious, production time?
I would say on set, it's pretty much the same as what you're describing. It's It's very, very fast. We don't have a lot of time, as any production is. And we're all moving. And everyone's very, what people forget is you might be doing really heavy material, but there's like 100 people there who don't really care that you're doing a very heavy scene. And, they're there to do their work and they're there to do their job, and they don't care, what you're going through as an actor, not in an unsupportive way, but in a way of, they're there to work. There are a lot of laughs and then we have a lot of fun. I would say, as opposed to Mad Men on Handmaids, because the material is kind of dark and complex, we create the space a little bit more beforehand. There's a little bit more talking. There's, even just rehearsal, hopefully with a director or an actor, emails, whatever it is, to kind of prepare beforehand, because once we do get on set, we really don't have much time.
When you're directing a series such as this, obviously there's been a template, and this goes for everyone who I'm talking with today. There's a template, there's a style that's been set in place. But Lizzie, what were some of your inspirations? I mean, the ending, let's start with episode 3. The ending of that, oh my God, mind-blowing. The slow-mo, the song. Did you storyboard this? What were your inspirations?
As everything on this, it started with Stuart and I. We started there every time, just doing page turns and talking about it, and with that particular scene, it was a combination of things. But Stuart had sent me a Radiohead music video as a shot idea for another scene, which we did end up doing that shot in episode 3. But the track really, obviously I know it, but the track really struck me, and I thought, oh, this could be perfect for the crossing at the end. And then so we ended up kind of just going, this is the song, and storyboarded it to that song and shot it knowing that song in mind. Last Black Man in San Francisco, that was something that I saw during the shutdown, and there's a sort of sequence in that involves a lot of slow-mo and, inspired as I sent it to Stuart, and I was like, what are they doing? Because I don't know. I'm not as familiar with like the equipment that one would use to shoot this. So it would be like, what is this? What are they doing? How are they doing this? And he, would kind of try to analyze it for me, of how we could create that effect. And it just, it's all the little pieces that come together. It's never just one thing.
Stuart, Elisabeth, Lizzie, and even Debra, do you look at photographs for inspiration? The shots in this are so iconic.
during prep, we throw each other all sorts of references, not just photographs, but also, film references, as Lizzie said, kind of music videos. So we really do kind of bounce around all kind of ideas during prep. And that's, for me at least, and I'm sure it's the same with everyone really, it's that's kind of where our spark and where our ideas start to come from. So it's a barrage of emails. During prep, we are constantly texting, emailing, doing all sorts of things, saying, look at this, isn't this is a beautiful image. Elisabeth, look at this. Elisabeth sends and goes, yeah, that's it. I mean, that looks incredible. So that's kind of what we do. We just fling everything kind of at each other, and then some of it sticks, some of it doesn't. And just kind of sometimes it's just that tiny little spark we need, and that kind of leads on to something else. So it's a constant communication between all of us to try and to kind of find at the very essence of the very kind of the beautiful parts of the show. Kind of that's what we do, and it's not just music. It's not just pictures. It's music as well. We're constantly sending each other bits of music, and that kind of fires up our imagination and ideas. So it's a constant barrage of emails to kind of to get our ideas flowing.
And the other thing I feel is that we have, there's the four of us, but we're also accompanied, shall I say, by some extraordinary people. This particular episode, I feel like we were led in a way and also supported by our locations team, who are wonderful. And so in even long before Christmas, I forget when it was, we had a lot of train tracks to be shot in this season. And so we'd visited a variety of train tracks. This was even, I think you and I, Stuart, had gone together. Anyway, the locations team is very, very savvy and very sensitive to the story. And so, once they came back with the train crossing, when the girls get hit, there's this one picture that our location scout took, which was a really misty morning. And it's absolutely beautiful. And so I remember showing it to Stuart, and it was like, oh my God, we have to, and we were just praying, of course, that we would have that weather, which we didn't. But either way, they are part of that process. And, everyone, I think, in prep is part of that process in their own way. And it makes it richer for us, I think.
But we have a clip from episode 8 testimony that Elisabeth Moss directed. Let's take a look at that.
I am grateful to be speaking to you today. But mine is just one voice. Countless others will remain unheard, imprisoned by men like Fred Waterford. Women my friends, who lost their lives and can never be heard. It is for those women that I ask the International Criminal Court to confirm the charges against this man and put him on trial. I ask for the maximum possible sentence. I ask for justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne.
Elisabeth and Lizzie, let's talk about the design there in the court. First of all, the inspiration for the courtroom. It reminded me, when I was in Finland, I remember seeing buildings and churches in the interior. The courtroom reminded me a lot about that. But there are a lot of lines. There's a lot of lines, and there's this shot before June goes into the courtroom. She's sitting. It almost looks like it's the lobby, but it's a metallic background, and there's lines. And it stands out. It means something. I just know that.
So there is an inspiration, which is, of course, the courtroom of the International Courtroom in The Hague. So we did base our general, design on that. But one of the ways that we work when we work on location is we come to an agreement with, the director of photography, the director, and myself as to, whether this space, whether we can make this space tell the story that we want it to tell, and what it is that we can do to transform it, to adapt it to our world, right? So we had this beautiful room in the university, and we asked ourselves whether it was too Gilead or too, we had all these questions that we throw at each other to make sure that we are going to, in the end, deliver the not only the aesthetic, but the mood that we want the show to have. And so with our references of The Hague, we of course we have all these boards, and everyone agrees on the colors and the style, and then between the actor's performance, between Stuart's camera, between the costumes, all of that helps us basically create our world. It's not just the location. It's not just the production design. It's every single piece.
And that wall that you were talking about is a really good example of what Elisabeth is saying. That was just a hallway. We needed a sort of lobby or waiting area, and that was a hallway with a bench and this wooden wall with the slats. Mm-hmm. And between all of us, we sort of just, okay, this could be a place that she's waiting. There's something to do with this. These slats are great visually. But I remember I walked onto set that day after Stuart had started lighting. It was after Tom, and I was like, Jesus Christ, it's just a wall, and it looked incredible. And there was like shaft of light, and I was like, okay, it was just going to be a wall and a bench, and that's like a great example of just like the teamwork of everybody kind of coming together. Mm-hmm.
And, in answer to your question, it's interesting because as a viewer, often one will wonder, was there an initial reason for us being there? And sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. But I think that, as Lizzie is saying, the work, the collaboration, the lighting, everything kind of gives it a mood that is, that's in our Handmaid's world, and actually gives these very simple locations a look that kind of looks intended. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, sometimes it's a fluke.
In that clip, one of the things that I absolutely loved was the hair and makeup.
Agreed. And
I have to say that there's nobody here, so we all know how much work they do and how much we appreciate it. And that clip in particular, for some reason, struck me as the most amazing, no makeup, beautiful makeup that you could imagine. But it always suits the journey.
100%.
And so I just remark on that one in particular because it just struck me while I was watching it how good it was. And there's nobody here to speak of that, but
I agree. I agree. I'm always impressed. It is just. Is the, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's never overdone, never underdone. It's always perfect, in my opinion. Yeah, it's really impressive.
I agree, and it's Paul and Burton are the heads of our hair and makeup department, and Burton's been with the show the entire time, and he's a phenom. He's so good at he's so good at June in this show, and Paul joined us in season 3, and he's also been fantastic. Yeah,
that's very good.
I would say the same thing about the costumes, though, Debra.
Agreed.
Yeah, the realism of them as well as how visually beautiful they are, and the two things coming together. Very accurate robes that you would wear in the International Criminal Court. And an attorney, Don Mathis, is wearing what she would wear, and obviously there's our characters dressed, the Waterfords and Luke and everything. But everyone is very kind of this perfect marriage of realism, and it's not too much. Like June's wearing a dress, but she's also wearing a jacket. Like it's not too glamorous or anything, but visually it's perfect. And I think because of the work of Elisabeth and Stuart, you said Elisabeth is so just, like so specific and perfect. You have to have every element. Perfect. And that includes hair and makeup and costumes.
Yeah, I think the first meeting that Stuart and Elisabeth and I had was very exciting, right? You were very tired, Stuart. And I think I talked your ear off. I was like, oh, he's here. It was very...
I much the same thing. It was a really exciting. That's kind of what is exciting about what we do. Those little moments, those meetings, you go, this is going to be incredible. We're all at the top of our game here, and this is going to be really exciting. And at that point, then you're going to go, this is going to be great. This is going to work. From then on, you have no doubts. You have no doubts whatsoever.
For me, having Lizzie available for questions, but also Elisabeth, because she has an incredible team who does amazing visuals that have lighting added to them as well. And Stuart and Elisabeth had already come up with some amazing sketches, which I could look at. And I'll remember the ones that were the ones on the parapet when they're going to get pushed off, trying to find the right color for that, to remember. And we came up with that turmeric and the red stripe. And for my problem and challenge with the show was that I was new, and there's such fantastic, iconic costuming in that show. And it had to transition into all the same references, but intensify and transition into something else. And so that was my challenge. And I think with Lizzie and Elisabeth and Stuart, constantly being in contact with them was a fantastic thing. It made my life, relatively easy.
Elisabeth, you had this, or at least this is my memory of it. You had a photo of, I don't know if it was a painting, I don't know what it was, but there was of this fabric.
Draped.
Color. Right, Debra? Remember that? Yeah. And I'll never get that image out of my mind. And and you sent it to me, Debra, and I was like, oh, that's incredible. So that's just an example of the marriage of kind of
ideas and
yeah.
I was in Elisabeth's office, and she had this incredible picture of a peacock. And I said, can I have that, please? And I pasted it onto my door in the wardrobe. So all of my crew, when they came in, what they read was this color scheme that we were doing. We didn't do the full peacock, of course, but, we did spend a lot of time with the color, because it was so important. And we always fed it through everybody. We were very, very lucky and appreciate the fact that people took time to actually test the colors.
What trumps everything is the story, and we know what that is, and then we go and we head in that direction. And I think that's what everyone does, and everyone pulls in the same direction. But to have that kind of experience is certainly in my experience, is pretty unique. And it's great. I love it.
It is unique. And I think I have to say, because I've asked for that kind of experience on a lot of shows, a lot of time, and the production is rarely supportive, because of course there's a cost associated to having, crew come in, and you have to pay the gaffers and this whole union thing. And it's a big thing, right? And on this show, there is an agreement or an understanding that this is important to us, and if we're asking for it, it's because we feel like it has value, and so they give it to us, and that's quite special, actually. That we have producers who are as much creative producers as they are financial producers, or at least know when to pull and when to give, and I think that's fantastic.
We have another clip showing some of Stuart's cinematography. So let's take a look.
Well, gentlemen, I think that you're both in the wrong place. I have a meeting here with my lawyer.
That meeting is being rescheduled. Commander, your hearing this afternoon will also need to be pushed, I'm afraid.
So my rights are being curtailed already?
We appreciate your patience.
I don't believe you've given my wife and I much choice.
Don't speak for me.
Apologies, Mrs. Waterford.
In any case, I will try to let you know if there are any additional delays.
And why would there be any more delays? Mark?
Well, the news will break in the next few hours. In any case, sooner probably, with Twitter. Commander, Mrs. Waterford, this morning a plane left Gilead and landed at Pearson. There were 9 Marthas on board.
Apostates. Gilead is well rid of them, I'm sure.
There were also 86 children.
So, Stuart, when I first saw this clip, even though this scene is inside from episode 1, as I saw other things, around the safe house, it made me wonder, do you shoot in natural light on the show?
That's a very good question. No, but it's very nice to hear that you think so, because that kind of
especially outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, I'll be honest, shooting outside, I tend not to put in an awful lot of light, just because this is kind of my sensibilities, that I do like to make things look unlit. I'm not a particular fan of when I draw attention to myself. I think personally, and I'm sure there's many cinematographers who think much the same thing, but I think it's important that you shouldn't draw attention to yourself. What trumps everything is the story. And we are very lucky to have such incredible scripts, incredible performers, that if I were to detract from that, I think would be wrong. So to answer your question, yeah, it is lit. Everything is lit. But I try to make it as visible as possible. Of course, I add a little bit of glitter here and there, but do you know what I mean? It's important for me not to become. It's not a show about me. It's not. This isn't the Stuart Biddlecombe show. That's not that it ever would be anyway. But it's about the scripts and it's about the performers, and kind of that's what always sticks with me. That's the most important thing.
So there's some interesting camera positioning. In episode 3. We see the camera dangling over June's head as Aunt Lydia cross-examines her. And eventually, by episode 7, when she confronts Serena, it's June looking down. Can you talk about that? Mostly about what I'm fascinated by is when the camera hangs above June. There's these great angles. And then in episode 8... I know I'm going everywhere here, guys. In episode 8, in the group therapy session, just the way that's shot, you've got interesting angles on everyone as they talk and you go around the circle. Tell me about it.
I mean, there are some kind of very unusual angles in the show, but they are all done for a very good reason. It's a part of discussion which I have with Lizzie and with all directors. These shots aren't just there because they look pretty. They're there for a very specific reason, and I think there should be no question in that. Every single shot needs to push the story forward in one way or another. Nothing should be superfluous. Everything is there for a reason. So yes, there is this wide range of camera positions and camera movement, but it's all there for a very good reason. And it's very important for me to do that, to kind of understand what the script is and exactly what we're trying to tell, so that I can help that story with the camera movement and with the camera position. It's super important for me to be, as I said in the last question, that it's not about me. It's not about the camera. It's about the story. It's about the performance, and that is always kind of the choice behind every single thing I do.
So in season 4, we go from Gilead to Canada. Tell me about, I'll start with you, Debra. How did that impact costumes? The first thing I want to say, that's my main question, but my other question is, when June arrives at the Fairmount Hotel, after she takes a shower, the first thing she grabs is a red satin robe. Why can't she escape red?
It wasn't red initially.
I was like, what do you mean it was red?
It looked red.
No, it's a deep orange. I think that's some of the color changing that happens. I think for color in this show, and speaking again in reference to both Elisabeth and Stuart's ability to create sculptural pictures is extraordinary. And what I tried to do quite often with color was to make sure that could happen with this light. When you see people, I would change lighter. Do you remember the one of the little girl, the daughter, that was in the cage? I actually did drawings for that and lit it from a program that I have to see if the color that I was using would actually happen.
Elisabeth, for you, season 4, what were some of the new sets that you had to design?
Oh my goodness, there were a lot this season. Well, from actually almost the entire season. I mean, other than returning to the Lawrence's house for a couple of scenes and some of the spaces in the detention center, everything else was a new set, I believe, from episode 1 with the farm, episode 2, again, the farm and other various sets. We had hundreds of sets this season. Everything in the Eyes compound for Lizzie's episode. Episode 4 was the train, the milk train and that voyage and the arrival in Chicago. Episode 5 was Chicago and all of those spaces and the bombing. Episode 6 was the boat and the escape. Episode 7 was the arrival, the hotels, and the entering in the house. It just, every single episode was a monster. And so, people ask me sometimes, oh, are you going to do next season? Oh, are you going to do next season again? Like, oh, shouldn't you move on? And I mean, it is a very, it's a good question. One would say that I should move on. I've done 3 years and, but actually the sets are always so different that it's not like I'm stagnating in terms of creativity on this show. I'm learning and I'm doing and I'm changing. And so it's just been like a super rich experience since day one.
My last question, Lizzie, I'm wondering if you could talk about balancing the acting with the directing. There are some actors who they don't like to look at the monitor. They don't like to look at their performance, but some do. Some are about that. It's a personal choice as a performer. What happens when you're a director? How did you check your performance? Was it against someone else on set, such as an AD, or did you got to go and you got to check you got to go as a director and check every single shot that's being taken?
It was a combo of things. I discovered, honestly, only after directing a little bit more, that I've always thought as a director. I always thought I was just a very involved actor, but I realized that I actually think like a director. I edit, even as an actor, I edit it in my head. So I know, I'm thinking whether or not I should be thinking about this is some actors would say I should be more in the moment, but I think about, I know that we're going to use this line for this moment, and I know we're going to go to that angle for this moment. So I've been thinking like that for years. So it wasn't as much of a departure for me as you would think to now be directing myself. I've sort of been thinking like that for a while. Practically speaking, I thank God. I mean, Stuart and he doesn't agree with me when I say this because he's not an egomaniac, but he it really is 50-50 on these episodes as far as how we got this done. I mean, I had such an incredible partner in him on set. And I mean creatively, and I also mean in the day-to-day practicality of it, because I trusted him so much, and I knew not only to trust him with whether or not the shot looked good, but whether or not we were getting what we had talked about in our prep, that we talked about these scenes. We knew what they wanted them. We knew what the story we wanted to tell. So it wasn't just about like, was the light okay? Did the actor hit their mark? But I knew he knew what we wanted out of the scene emotionally. So there was a lot of playback. There were definitely times that I watched. I watched a lot, but there were also a fair amount of times when once I saw that it was looking like what we wanted to look like, we'd do it, and I'd look at him and I'd say, good? And he'd say, yeah, we're good. Or no, I think we should go again. And that trust is, I could not have done this job without that. It is so, so, so important, so crucial. But I did have to watch sometimes my own takes, and everyone stands there and watches you watch your own takes, and it's terribly embarrassing. It's awful. Everyone's just like staring at you, or not, or they're talking, and you're trying to watch and they're just jabbering away.
Well, I want to thank everyone. This is Hulu's season 4 of The Handmaid's Tale. Let's thank our guests: cinematographer Stuart Biddlecombe, production designer Elisabeth Williams, costume designer Debra Hanson, and star executive producer and director Elisabeth Moss. Thank you so much.
Thank you.